finally, I'm going to be able to move on and finally do my all-time teams of NFL. Finally, it's been a while, so I'm glad to be back. I did not do the Miami Dolphins defensive side, so let's start there. We're going to do defensive end, Bill Stanfield. He's going to be our first D end. Doesn't matter where you put him, left or right, doesn't matter. He's going to match up well with another guy that's pretty much Hall of Famer. Stanfield, a guy that, no, he's not a Hall of Famer. He was an All-Pro. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler and won the Super Bowl twice. So that counts for something. Overall, just a really good defender. A guy that, unfortunately, the statistics did not show sacks, but his value was very much made on this defensive team. He was on the team that got undefeated. He was on the team that was honestly one of the best defensive teams of all time. So he was there with partner up with one of the best D-lines. It was fantastic to see. He was a fantastic D lineman. I mean, honestly, he played almost every game. He only played about 8 seasons, but played 11 playoff games. He was just, he was a true professional. And you get to the QB, he can tackle. He's got what he needs. He's, I think he's enough for this team. Unfortunately, I can't tell you much more because sacks were not recorded. He had some fumble recoveries. Overall, his career was short but sweet. So I think he'll do pretty well. We'll have to see how he does against other offensive line in the other teams. But I think he could get a few sacks in there if there was a regular season played of all these teams. Now, we are actually running a 4-3 on here, so there's going to be 4 defensive linemen, and primarily because Stanfield, Taylor, and a nose tackle. I don't know if that would work. So we're having 2 D tackles. One of these guys is Bob Baumhauer, a guy that we got at least 4 years of his sack totals, so that was pretty nice. And there was a point where he played all 16 games in 1983 and had 8 sacks as a nose tackle. That's impressive. A guy that was able to get interceptions, a guy that was able to be playing almost all year, a guy that did recover fumbles. He was actively there. He even scored, and he was able to get to the QB, and I think that's a fantastic thing. I think Stanfield, he will need some help. He's a fantastic D end, but he's going to need some help in there more because he isn't one of the best D ends there. So having Baumhauer is a big upgrade. I think both of those on the left side or right side, or whichever one, that's going to be pretty entertaining. Baumhauer, again, 5-time Pro Bowler and an All-Pro. No, he's not into the Hall of Fame, but you're looking at a guy that from 77 to 86, he played almost every game. He was out there. He was making sure that he made his team better, and that's what I think he brings to the table. And it's going to be fun watching him on this team. Now, defensive tackle Tim Bowens will be on the other side of it, and he's mostly probably going to be a right defensive tackle, to be quite honest with you. But he played mostly left defensive tackle, so he might transition. It doesn't matter. Baumhauer or Bowens, whoever's next to Stanfield will benefit. Honestly, Baumhauer's better than Bowens, but Bowens has shown the ability to honestly get there. He's forced fumbles. He's had interceptions. He's recovered fumbles. He's even returned for touchdowns. He's been able to get 3 or 4 sacks in a year, and he's definitely able to also be pretty good at tackling. He's good at tackling down the middle. I think it's good that Baumhauer and him are together. That run game is, they're going to have a taste of these guys' medicine, in my honest opinion. I think they're going to be able to just be solid overall. And you're looking at it. The only thing is, playoff-wise, not much has been recorded. He hasn't really done as much. He did get 1 sack, though, in his career, though, in the playoffs, from what I have right here. But overall, this is a guy that's 2-time Pro Bowler, and I think he's going to be just fine. In my honest opinion, I think He's gonna kill the game, and I think he's gonna do pretty well. And with Baumhauer's kind of leadership and his mentoring, since they did not play in the same era, I think they'll work out pretty swell. And in my honest opinion, it's gonna be a pretty good D line right now. So not one of the best that I'm gonna do, but I think they can hold their own. And now the Hall of Famer Jason Taylor. Yep, he's going to be on this list. Of course he is. He is the epitome of a Miami Dolphin, of course. Spent 13 years in there. If it wasn't for him going to Washington or to New York, he would have just stayed in Miami and still have done what he. I mean, he has about 140 career sacks, so it's ranked, I think, like 5th all time. I'm pretty sure, but this is a guy that's a Hall of Famer. This is a guy that's a 3-time All-Pro, a 6-time Pro Bowler, a guy that's had 18.5 sacks in a year, like a guy that's a tackling machine, a guy that can do it all for you, and he is the leader of this defensive line. Like, honestly, if it's anyone that's going to take any of the plays from that D-line and make sure that they all execute, it's Jason Taylor. Jason Taylor is going to be that guy. He's going to tell them what to do. He's going to tell them where to line up, and he's going to be a big-time leader. If Jason Taylor were to be injured at all, this is where I'm saying this D-line is really weak at. This D-line overall is not the best. It is pretty weak compared to the other ones of all time, But the thing that makes it special is that they have a mixture of, pretty finesse kind of guys, the guys that can actually work. They're gritty, they don't really get much attention, but they're hands-on. They're willing to work. And then you have this guy. You have this powerful human being that gets after it, that's gonna kill you, and he's willing to fight. He's willing to just put in the work, and so there hasn't been a year where he hasn't had at least one sack. Every single year in his career he's had multiple sacks. So yeah, he's a good dude, and it's gonna be pretty fun to watch him. Now, a big key piece of the defense is the linebackers. I've probably said this many times already, but yeah, Kim Bokamper. This is their left outside linebacker in a way. Actually, it is pretty much left outside, left inside, whatever you want to call it. It's a 4-3, so he's left inside linebacker. But yeah, Kim Bokamper, a guy that's pretty scary. He can be pretty scary when he has to be. A guy that's he has recorded sacks. He has recorded many things. Like, he's a 6'6" linebacker, so he is scary. Can play the DN position, can also play the linebacker position. So anything you want to rearrange him, he can do. And a guy that's had a pretty successful career from 77 to 85, and a guy that has had times where he has had multiple sacks in the playoffs. So overall, this is a guy that's fantastic. A guy playing from the late 70s to the mid 80s, pretty much. And yeah, he's a guy, 1-time Pro Bowler. Again, doesn't get recognition. A lot of these defensive players in Miami do not get enough recognition. But yeah, this is a guy that's fantastic. That's gonna do pretty well at the team. So yeah. So, middle linebacker, Zack Thomas, one of the most underappreciated guys in National Football history, period. Just a guy that was a fantastic middle linebacker, one of the best, and people do not know who this guy is. Well, this guy was a 7-time Pro Bowler and a 5-time All-Pro. This guy recorded over 1,000 sacks, oh my God, 1,000 tackles. Actually recorded more than 1,100 tackles. This is a guy that was there on the list for tackles overall combined. It's a guy that's had a career of 20.5 sacks as a linebacker. He's had multiple pass deflections. He's had multiple forced fumbles. He's had multiple fumble recoveries. He's had 17 interceptions and 4 touchdowns from those interceptions, and a guy that played pretty much 184 games in his career from 1996 to 2008, a guy that was flat out just competing day in and day out, a great guy to watch. Didn't really get much postseason exposure, and a guy that, like I said, people do not really recognize or really know much, and that's sad because he's, like I said, one of the best linebackers in history. So middle linebacker wise, it's going to be exciting to see him and Jason Taylor pairing up again. And I think, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty fun to watch. I think Bo Camper and him, not not bad. Now, right outside linebacker, we have Nick Buoniconti. Buoniconti. Yeah, if I said that word or that name, I'm very sorry. Italian dude, tough dude. Let me tell you, tough dude. For his height, was able to just play bigger than his size. A guy that is a Hall of Famer, a guy that's a two-time Super Bowl champion, a guy that's a five-time All-Pro, a guy that's an eight-time Pro Bowler, a guy that was there all the time, playing for Boston, but also playing for Miami later in his second half of his career. And in the second half of his career, he was dominant. He was able to start a lot of games. He was able to be there a lot of times. And like I said, he's a big part of the undefeated Dolphins. So you got to give this guy credit where this guy belongs and stuff. And I think he's a great addition to the linebacking core. Again, this defense is probably going to be one of the weakest defenses of all time on this list. But just don't take your eye off of these guys. I think Bianconti, Bo Camper, and Zack Thomas are going to surprise a lot of people because they're going to be low key. They're going to be low key producing. So, fantastic linebacking core. I like them right now. So, yeah. Now, secondary wise, we got to start with cornerback Tim Foley, the guy that not that bad at all. Started in 110 games, had years where he had 4 interceptions, he had 3 interceptions, he had 2, he had 6 interceptions. He's a guy that can actively cover a guy, in my honest opinion. Again, this is a guy that played from the 70s to the 80s, so 70 to 80. But, I mean, he's a Pro Bowler, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He is pretty much one of their best corners in franchise history as of right now. So, yeah, you gotta try to get your defense as good as possible. So, yeah, he's going to be covering guys like Chris Carter and, guys like he might have to cover Jimmy Smith. He might have to cover Keenan McCardle. It's going to be hard. But I think, in my honest opinion, I think he can do it. I think he'll be able to just successfully do his job. And, when they compete, they compete. So, we don't really know what would happen. We just know that these teams are going to be pretty good. So, all of them are in their own right. Now, other corner is going to be Sam Madison. Sam Madison is, well, very underappreciated in my opinion. People know him for being in the Giants and they won the Super Bowl that year. Of course, he was doing pretty well, but they don't really realize he was just one of the best in the game at one point, playing for the Miami Dolphins for 9 years. A guy that, first of all, really good tackler. A guy that could have his opportunity, but never really as much. But sack-wise, he got there at least once in Miami there, and another time in New York. A guy that could force fumbles, a guy that could recover fumbles, a guy that can obviously cover guys because he's had a good amount of pass deflections. A guy that's had pretty good amount of interceptions in Miami. A guy that's been able to start all 16 games, being healthy. He's reliable. And, yeah, I mean, this is a guy that, when you need him, he's going to be there. So, in my honest opinion, him and Tim Foley, he's the better corner. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and, of course, Super Bowl champion. So, honestly, in my opinion, I think they will do just fine. I think Sam Madison will not be as targeted as much as people think. He's a really good corner. So, I think he'll succeed in his own right, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. It'll be very fun to watch. Now, the secondary needs free safeties and strong safeties, of course. This is going to be their free safety. Their free safety will be Jake Scott, a 5-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time All-Pro, and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. A guy that pretty much he was a part of the team that was defensively gifted that got undefeated. He was the guy that played for the Redskins his last 3 years of his career, but a guy that can get it done overall in all sides of the ball and an interception machine. For the times he played, only 8 years, he was pretty good to get 49 interceptions as a free safety. That's pretty good. So overall, this is a guy that's, in my opinion, gonna help their secondary a lot. I think Sam Madison and him will definitely see eye to eye. I think they both will be aggressive. I would love to see Jake Scott tear it up, and I think that's what he's going to do. I think he's going to tear it up, and it's going to be fun to watch. Now, the strong safety is going to be Dick Anderson. Dick Anderson, 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, and a 2-time Super Bowl champion. A guy that's another guy that was a part of the undefeated Dolphins. A guy that was, 34 interceptions in 9 years. Pretty solid. Didn't really give me any statistics on tackles, but I'm sure he was pretty good at tackling. He was good at really causing fumbles and recovering them. He was great at, pretty much just picking people off. He was just a really good and smart player. And like I said, that 72, 73, like those in the 70s, those 70 Dolphins teams, very gifted. They're just gifted defensive players, just gifted players in general. But yeah, I think Dick Anderson, again, I think the strongest unit that they have as of right now, defensive starters, has to be the secondary, and that's good because that means that you're not going to allow too many passing yards. You're going to allow more rushing yards, possibly, but passing yards, there might not be many targets because they're going to try to be aggressive and they can all pick off the ball. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. Now, the kicker is going to be Lamar. Lamar, fantastic guy, a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, has been on many teams, but mostly on the Miami Dolphins. So that's why I'm putting him on there. He's been the most accurate kicker. And, he can launch balls up there 50+. So, honestly, you need a kicker. You need good special teams. Lamar is a good start to this. And, I think he's going to do just fine there in Miami. It's pretty much where he's been his entire career for the most part before moving a lot. But, this is a guy that's going to be right at home. And, he's going to do just fine. The punter is going to be Brandon Fields. Brandon Fields played from 2007 to 2015. He's now 33 years old. He's not playing in the league anymore, but he is a guy that was, first of all, didn't get his punts blocked that much, only 3 times in his career. A guy that punted over 3,000 yards most of his career, and his average punts were pretty much like half of the football field, which is fantastic. Overall, just you're gonna need someone. He's pretty much the most recognized one in the league, in their team, and he's racked up the most statistics in his franchise. So he's gonna be on this list. Whether he likes it or not, I'm sure he'll like it. And again, he is a Pro Bowler. So yeah. Now you need a good returner, and the returner is gonna be Ted Ginn. If you ever seen Ted Ginn is fast. Ted Ginn, when he was younger, he was fast. He was smooth, and I'm gonna pick him because yes, he only played 3 years in Miami because he's been around a lot, and he's still playing. He's right now in New Orleans for the first year in New Orleans, but this is a guy that for 3 years in Miami did a lot of things already. Like he returned punts, he was able to run the ball, he had pretty good reception numbers for a guy that was just a return man mostly. And I mean, this is, like I said, you see this guy, overall, what he's been able to do, like he had 36 punt return for 312 yards and a touchdown. His average one was 8.7. Kick returns, you're looking at a guy that had 147 of them, had 3,387 yards and 2 touchdowns, and an average one of 23 yards. I mean, this is a guy that could just fly with the best of them, and he was, like I said, speedy. He is just agile, and he made people really just roll on skates on the field. Honestly, in my opinion, just a great guy that you can plug him anywhere. And like I said, if you truly need an actual receiver, like if you need a third guy, this guy's gonna be that guy. Like honestly, Ted Ginn is special. So. Now, head coaching wise, the head coach is going to be Don Shula. So, I think to me, that's going to be, that's pretty much the easiest thing you could possibly put as coaches, especially when you look at Dallas Cowboys and you look at the Miami Dolphins, looking at the New England Patriots. It's just an easy pick. It's Don Shula. Don Shula's had the most success there. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion. He's a Hall of Fame coach, of course. He's won the Super Bowl back-to-back with the Miami Dolphins. He's won the NFL championship with the Baltimore Colts. But this is a guy that coached the Baltimore Colts for 7 years and coached the Miami Dolphins for 26 years. This is a guy that got him to really pretty much a typical finish ranking-wise in the division, 1.9. He was always in that 1-2 range. Like, he always was able to get them to just success. I mean, 257 wins and 133 losses and 2 ties with the Miami Dolphins. It's a 65 percentage of winning. That's pretty great. 31 times they went to the playoffs, like 31 games, and 17 and 14, 54.8 percentage. That's not bad, He was able to get them to the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, he was able to get them to the Super Bowl 5 times. So he was able to make Miami relevant, and the fact that he has 2 Super Bowl rings with them, it even more signifies how much of a impact he is to the Miami Dolphins franchise, to the Miami community. And so, who else better to be a coach of this team than Don Shula himself?